Hello. Welcome to PlayStation Access. I'm Rob, and joining us is Rosie.
Hello!
And we are going to talk about a game that until 2 hours ago, we didn't even know existed, Rosie.
It's the best way to do it. Best way to find out.
But now we do, and that game is Final Fantasy XVI.
Yes,
I thought I was over the whole sort of getting childishly excited thing. I was there watching the showcase, thinking I'm just going to be a sensible adult during this. And then the first thing they showed was Final Fantasy XVI.
What a way to start.
And we didn't know it was Final Fantasy XVI until things started happening in the trailer. We were like, wait a second, this has got to be Final Fantasy. Oh my god, there's chocobos. Oh my god.
Then the music, and you're like, the music and everything, and you're like, oh my god, the people, I think this is a Final Fantasy.
And it was Final Fantasy XVI. So we're going to talk about 5 things we know about Final Fantasy XVI. Our knowledge about this game is still very limited, so we're basing this off everything we could sort of glean from the trailer. The first thing to note is that Final Fantasy XVI is being developed in-house by Square Enix by, I'm going to get this right, Creative Business Unit 3.
Well done.
Which, I know that sounds like, who cares? But it is important because Creative Business Unit 3 is the same team behind Final Fantasy XIV. Mm-hmm. And Naoki Yoshida, the director of Final Fantasy XIV, has since confirmed that he is the producer of Final Fantasy XVI. Which is very exciting for a number of reasons. People who have been playing and still play Final Fantasy XIV, because it's, an ongoing MMORPG. One of the best things about it is that despite the fact it's a multiplayer game, the campaign, the story in it is so good. So just the fact that we've got a team with that kind of storytelling pedigree behind the next installment, the next mainline Final Fantasy installment is amazingly exciting. Because for me, I'm sure you're the same, Rosie, like the thing I like most about Final Fantasy is the story.
Oh, 100%. Every story they're all brilliant. Yeah,
you just, the characters, and wow. Just to have that team behind this, it just looks amazing. The art style looks very Final Fantasy XIV. Just to go back to that sort of high fantasy setting as well, because we've had quite a lot of, I would say, sort of sci-fi vibes from Final Fantasy in recent installments. 15 obviously was very sort of grounded in this sort of realistic but also futuristic style.
That's a good way of putting it,
Final Fantasy 7 Remake obviously is totally steampunk and sci-fi. So to have a Final Fantasy that's going back to that sort of classic high fantasy look and feel is amazingly exciting. The next thing we should talk about, Rosie, we saw a little bit of this in the trailer. The combat looks very real time.
Yes, it does. I did notice that as well. Yeah, 100%.
So we got, you saw it as well, Rosie, the Marlboro.
Oh my god, it jumped when when I saw it jump, I was just like, oh, this is going to be a bad time.
I mean, you've been catching up with the Final Fantasy series recently, Rosie. Yes. How much experience do you have fighting Marlboros?
I've had quite a fair bit of experience fighting Marlboro. I certainly know enough to know that it's not a monster that you just want to casually, just run into.
Not at all. I mean, you're playing Final Fantasy VIII Remastered right now.
Yes, currently, yes.
I don't know if you've encountered Marlboros in Final Fantasy VIII yet, but I think they're my least favourite iteration of Marlboro in 8.
Yeah, I think I did come across it, and of course I did not junction well enough to take on the Marlboro, and I immediately died, and now whenever I see it, I just run away.
Well, in Final Fantasy XVI, you can kick Marlboro's asses in real time.
Yes!
Which is very exciting. The combat, we don't know about the ins and outs of it, all the nuts and bolts of the combat system in Final Fantasy XVI yet. Obviously, it's only just been revealed. Mm-hmm. But from the look of the trailer, the combat looks, epic, real-time, action-based, and obviously there's going to be elements of RPG strategy in there as well. Judging by recent combat systems, like Final Fantasy VII Remake's combat system was, I'm going to put my phone down so I can go, chef's kiss. Like, one of the best, if not my favourite, sort of collision between real-time combat, but also really deep role-playing
Oh, it was
strategy as
beautiful.
well. Oh, they just nailed it.
Beautifully
it was so
done.
good. The next thing we're going to talk about, Rosie, we saw quite a lot of these in the trailer. The summons,
Yes.
which I believe I heard one of the characters calling them icons. I'm not 100% sure that they are called icons.
Yeah, they said something
but
like they've summoned an icon or
they've
something.
summoned their icon,
Yeah.
and then another character said, "That's not an icon.
It's a mountain."
It's a mountain." The mountain looks a lot like Titan. I'm going to say I think that's Titan. That's not confirmed. That's me making an educated guess. Also, I think we saw Shiva. We definitely saw Phoenix,
Yes.
who looks amazing, and another summon that I'm going to hazard a guess and say it's Ifrit.
Ifrit, the whole trailer I was thinking, is that Ifrit? Is it
It's got to
Ifrit?
be. It's a summon made of fire.
Yeah, and
It's
he's got like the
Ifrit,
big
right?
sort of
Yeah.
beastiness. I was just like, if it's not Ifrit, I'll be very surprised.
So we
but-
saw Ifrit fighting Phoenix. We saw Shiva fighting Titan. And the logo for Final Fantasy XVI, the artwork,
Yes.
seems to depict the battle between Phoenix and Ifrit, which suggests that summons, icons, if that's what they're called in Final Fantasy XVI, are going to have a prominent role in the story. And I don't know about you, Rosie, but I love it when summons are more than just a thing you summon in battle to look cool. Like in Final
Yeah.
Fantasy X, they're a huge part of the story, and I loved that. So
Oh, 100%.
epic, big, massive demigods, elemental demigods you can just have fighting each other. Yes, please. It's going to be awesome. Also, there was a lot of talk about crystals in the trailer. That's
Yeah,
our
there were.
fourth thing. There seems to be a lot of talk about mother crystals, and crystals are a recurring motif within the Final Fantasy universe. Not seen them so much in recent Final Fantasies. There was a little bit in Final Fantasy 15 about the crystals, but for me, as like an old school Final Fantasy fan, it just feels right. It feels right that that crystals are important. And, you know, the very first Final Fantasy, you were the Warriors of Light, and you had to, you know, protect the crystal and all that kind of thing. And I got a lot of vibes from the trailer that they were going back to, or, you know, paying respect or paying homage to a lot of things in Final Fantasy's roots.
They love their crystals, it looks
Yeah.
like.
So that was exciting. And just hearing the Final Fantasy theme music as well.
Oh, it was so beautiful.
It gets me every time. The fifth thing that we know about Final Fantasy 16, I mean, obviously it was going to, but seeing them in the trailer, Chocobo's going to
The
be
chocobos! Oh, Rob, if I see a chocobo die as it rides into the battlefield, I am not going to be able to take it. I love the chocobos.
Well, I hate to break it to you, Rosie,
No.
but it looks bad for the Chocobos.
They will all live.
I mean, you know, we were talking just before we recorded this video, weren't we, about the Operation Mi'ihen scene in Final Fantasy X, where many Chocobos were harmed.
But we don't talk about
We don't talk about that, no. Chocobos, I mean, obviously, it's not going to be a Final Fantasy game without Chocobos, but they're in the trailer, so they're confirmed. That is a thing we definitely know about Final Fantasy 16. Chocobos are in it. And, yeah, basically, those are the 5 things we definitely know. I know you probably know them too, because you've seen the trailer, but basically, we just wanted to make an excuse to make a video about Final Fantasy 16, because Rosie and I are very excited about it.
So excited!
I hope you are too. Let us know in the comments what you thought of the Final Fantasy 16 reveal trailer. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and please don't forget to subscribe, because we're going to have loads more videos on other PS5 games. PS5 very soon. We'll see you then.
PlayStation